Welcome back to AM Northwest. More than 25 years ago, our first guest created a time travel love story called Outlander. Since then, her series of Outlander novels have sold more than 26 million copies and spawned a hit TV series. Please welcome to AM Northwest the creator of the Outlander world, author Diana Gabaldon. Diana, is that you say a lot of people get your name pronounced incorrectly.
Yeah, well, you would probably believe the various things that I hear, Gabaldon being the usual atrocity. No, I tell people it rhymes with bad to the bone.
Bad to the bone, oh, that's great. What do you think it is about the attraction to your novels? Because we have an entire audience of fans here. Now, we don't normally have an audience on Mondays, and they all are just so thrilled to be here and also to be talking about your books. What do you think the attraction is?
Well, over the years, people have often written to me to say, "Oh, I love this, I love that."
Right.
You know, the adventure, the history, the herbal medicine. You know, I'm not even sure what you would call it, the weird elements and so forth. The time travel, the sense of adventure, the fantasy, the escape. But what it really comes down to for almost everyone is the characters. They feel that they know these people and are very deeply interested in their lives.
Well, talking to the audience, they mentioned that they feel like they're a part of that whole story. And also that your words are so expressive that they can see it, they can feel it, they can smell it.
Well, that's very nice.
Yeah.
That's what we aim for, yeah.
Yeah, and it crosses all genres too, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. I've so far seen these books sold with evident success as literature, fiction, historical fiction, science fiction, fantasy, mystery, romance, military history.
Military history.
Military history.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're very accurate, yeah. Gay and lesbian fiction and horror.
Oh, and horror. I'm particularly interested in the romance part, and I know that initially it was sold in the romance department. It's not just a romance novel.
Thank goodness, no.
No, but the sex scenes are awesome.
Great, thank you.
How did you start out writing it?
Why?
As in,
Or how?
Yeah, maybe why. Maybe why, but how did you start out? Was it to say, let me see what I can do? What was the idea behind it?
Well, it's a sort of destiny calling, I guess you'd say. I've known since I was about 8 that I was meant to write novels, that that's what I was supposed to do. But I came from a very conservative family background. My father was fond of saying to me, "You're such a poor judge of character, you're bound to marry some bum," he said. So be sure you get a good education so you can support your family. So with this going on at home, I thought, well, perhaps I would not say I wanted to write novels, understanding this was kind of financially iffy. And so I went into science. You know, my parents both grew up in the Depression. They were born in 1930, so you know, it was get a job, have a pension, have benefits, have retirement, and all that. So anyway, I became a scientist. I've got a PhD in quantitative behavioral ecology, which is it's just animal behavior with statistics. Don't worry about it.
Because I was reading you've got a BS in zoology, and you've got a degree in marine biology and in ecology.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have another PhD, but it's honorary, so we don't count that one.
So when did you first realize you had a hit on your hands?
Oh, let's see. That was kind of slow. As noted, these books are impossible to describe.
Right.
In fact, my first editor said these have to be word-of-mouth books because they're too weird to describe to anyone, which is totally true. And so we sort of put them out there, and the publisher supported them as well as they could. You know, they gave away large quantities of the book at conventions and things, because the only way I've ever found of selling these books is either to tell people the story or to give them free samples. And you know, I would say, people say, "What are your books about?" And I say, "Well, you got 90 seconds. I'll sell it to you," and I can. But you know, I've always depended, since I began writing it, on letting people read pieces of it, and they get hooked, you know, and they want to know more.
Yeah, they can't put it down.
Yeah, this is how I began exposing it to the public, so to speak, and it was accidental to start with. I had been hanging around with an online group. Mind you, this was the mid-'80s. The web did not exist. What we had were 3 information services, Genie, Delphi, and CompuServe. And I used all 3, but I mostly hung on CompuServe in the books and writers forum. It was called the Literary Forum then. Anyway, I was not telling anybody I knew what I was doing when I began writing a book, because it's for practice. I wanted to learn how to write a book. And so I said, what's the easiest kind of book to write? And I thought, well, for me, maybe historical fiction. I was a research professor. I knew my way around a library.
Right.
I said it seems easier to look things up than make them up. And if I turn out to have no imagination, I can steal things from the historical record.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which actually works pretty well. So anyway, I began writing this book just quietly to learn how. And I was still hanging with the Lit Forum and so forth. And one night, as I was working, I work in the middle of the night because it's quiet, I was having this back and forth argument with a gentleman online about what it feels like to be pregnant.
Was a gentleman trying to tell you what it feels like to be pregnant?
Yeah. And he said, oh, I know what that's like. My wife's had 3 children. And I said, yeah, Buster, I've had 3 children. And he said, well, can you tell me what it's like? I said, I can, yes, but it's kind of complex. I don't know that I can fit it in a 30-line message slot, which is what we had. I said, I have this little piece I wrote a few months ago in which a young woman tells her brother what it's like to be pregnant. I said, I'll put it in the library here and you can read it. So I did. And everyone who had been following the argument went and read this piece. They all came rushing back and they said, this is great. What is it? And I said, I don't know. And they said, well, where's the beginning? And I said, I haven't written that yet. And they said, well, put up some more. And so I don't write in a straight line, and I don't have chapters until the very last thing before I send a manuscript to my editor. But
so you're saying you think of an idea and write, let's say, a segment here, then you think of another idea and write a segment here, and then later on you put them all back, put them together?
Yeah, they kind of, it's like playing Tetris in my head, but very slowly, all the pieces kind of.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, whenever I had a piece that would stand alone without a lot of explanation, which happened every 2-3 months, I would put it up for them, 5-10 pages, and they got more and more excited. And they kept saying, this is cool, you should try and publish it. And I was saying, I don't even know what kind of book it is, and surely I need to know that. But eventually I'm going to write a book that I'd like to publish, so for the sake of argument, what should I do? And I knew a lot of published writers by this time who also hung with this group, and all of them said, get a literary agent. They said an agent can do 2 things for you. He or she can get your manuscript read much more quickly than if you're sending it into a slush pile.
Right.
And if it does sell, the agent can negotiate a much better contract for you than you could do by yourself. So makes sense. How would I find an agent? Anyway, things progressed from there, and in the fullness of time, I got a very good agent named Perry Knowlton, who I acquired before I finished the book, in fact. I sent him this letter, and I said, dear Mr. Knowlton, I've been writing and selling nonfiction by myself for some years now. But now that I'm writing a novel, I understand that I need good literary representation. You've been recommended to me by, and I gave the names of several of my CompuServe acquaintances, some of whom were his clients. And I said, I have this very long historical novel. I don't want to waste your time. Would you be willing to read excerpts from it? And so I didn't tell him I wasn't finished writing it. Excerpts were all I had. But he very kindly called back and said, yes, he would read my excerpts. So I hastily typed a 26-page single-space synopsis and sent it with my excerpts. And he took me on the basis of an unfinished first novel, which was very lucky.
And time travel wasn't originally the driver for the series, right?
Well, that was an accident. Everything about this is an accident. But no, it started out as a perfectly straightforward historical novel. But I chose Scotland in the 18th century on a whim, having seen a young gentleman in a kilt on a Doctor Who episode. And so I was writing about Scotland in the 18th century and immediately went to the library to look up Scotland in the 18th century. Well, I was looking for conflict, and you don't do that in Scotland in the 18th century without running into Bonnie Prince Charlie and the Jacobites. I said, okay, that looks like plenty of conflict, we'll use that. And so I began writing immediately with the man in the kilt and so forth, but I said, well, I must have a lot of Scotsmen because of the kilt factor, but I think it would be a good idea if I had a female character to play off these guys, then we'll have sexual tension, that's conflict, that's good. I said, all right, so from my cursory research, it looks like it was Scots versus English. If I make her an English woman, we will have lots of conflict.
Yes. And now we're 8 books later, and the TV series. What? We're taking a look at all the book covers here. This is incredible. Can you believe the success, and can you believe the success of the TV series?
It's great. No, I'm thrilled with it. They've done just a wonderful job.
Did you get any input into who was cast?
Well, they sent me the audition tapes for Sam Heughan and Katrina Balfe. Excuse me, and also for Tobias Menzies. And I said, that's great. But, I mean, it's not like I had any power.
Right.
But they were kind enough to include me.
How true to the books is the TV series?
Well, it is an adaptation, so it's not, as some people expect, a page-by-page thing. They're sitting there with their book going, no, that's not right. No, you left that out. That sort of thing. And so that's why I say to people, look, put the book down, enjoy the show. The book's going to be there when you get back. If you're missing anything, it's right there. But no, they've done a wonderful job. job. Still, the thing is, they've got 16 hours.
Right.
I read that book, allowed for recording for the blind and dyslexic. I was one of their volunteer readers for 27 years. And mostly I read science texts, but they asked me if I would read my first 3 books for a student who needed them. So I did, and you may have noticed that I talk rather fast. I read even faster. They clocked me, and I read roughly twice as fast as a normal person.
Really?
Yeah, it took me 32 hours to read that book, even so. So I said, they're not going to cram it in 16 hours of television.
You know, we have to take a break. We're going to be right back with Diana with more, so stay right there.
Tell me about your family.
We're back with Outlander author Diana Gabaldon. The scenes, those romantic scenes are so good. Oh my goodness. What do your kids, your adult children, you have 3 adult children,
Yes.
what do they think of those romantic scenes?
They
Those
don't read
sexy,
them.
they don't read them.
No, as my eldest said, I don't want to read sex scenes written by my mother. It's somewhat worse in that all of their friends read the books and so forth, so they know quite a bit about what's in them. And they know what Jamie Fraser looks like. Well, their father is also 6'4" with red hair.
Wow, really? Okay, so I guess their imagination, they don't want to go there. I can totally get that. The original title of your book was Cross Stitch, is that correct?
Yeah.
And how did it change?
Well, that was just my working title, because I had to call it something. It's not a good title particularly. It was just sort of a play on, crisscrossing in time, because when I was working on the book to start with, and realized she was a time traveler, I was thinking, well, she'll probably go and come back in the same book, but it didn't work that way. Anyway, it just went with the working title. We sold it in the U.S. first, and they said, well, we love the book, but we can't call it cross stitch. It sounds too much like embroidery. Could you think of something less boring? And so it took like 11 months of suggestions back and forth before I finally came up with Outlander. I wanted to call it Sassenach at one point, and they said, no, you can't call it that. Nobody can pronounce your name to start with, if they can't pronounce the title either. The book's got no chance.
The series casting is so good. We've interviewed the actors a few times, and oh my gosh, and as you saw by the romantic scenes, they're incredible together.
They're wonderful, yeah.
Yeah. So you're a consultant on the set as well, right? What does that involve exactly?
Well, as I said, they send me scripts and outlines and footage and episodes, and I give them comments. It's a very iterative process. You see a script outline, everybody comments on it, all of the executive producers, the other writers, a very collective sort of process. Then it has to go upstairs to the studio and network, which would be Sony and Starz, respectively. They each have people who comment on and have to approve each outline before it goes to script. Once it goes to script, you go through the whole process over again. Everybody comments on it. And except now you have the director in it as well.
Oh, right.
And the director of photography saying, well, I can't do that, because, we have this wonderful location we want to use, and if you do this scene, I can't shoot over there, so we have to focus it this way, so can you change that?
Speaking of locations, because there are a lot of challenges to shooting, especially the weather.
Well, they decided early on, as they told me, they said, it's Scotland. It's pointless to wait for good weather.
This is what the crew looks like as they're shooting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and consider the poor actors, even though they're wearing, genuine Scottish clothes, very multiple layers of heavy wool. It's still pretty cold. But so they said, we're just going to have to let the weather be a character in the show. That's what they did. They said, if it's raining, they get rained on. That's all there is to it, because that's how it would be if they were really there in this time.
We also want to have our audience take a look at this scene. It features you. So take a look.
Glenna,
Iona.
I see you have the place looking bright as a new pin.
Oh, that lovely dress again. You wore it so well to the last gathering. Myrta.
Oh, wow. Tell me about that experience.
That was a lot of fun, First they asked me, would I be an extra, and so forth. And I said, yeah, sure. But they thought about it for a bit, and they wrote back, and they said, well, we've been thinking, we want you to be in this gigantic scene for the gathering, because it's, it's so, overwhelming, all the wonderful costumes, and we're having a lot of press come to look at it, and you're part of the appeal. So they said, but if you're an extra, it means you basically have to stand in the same spot for 3 days. And as Meryl put it, the novelty wears off quickly.
Yes, pretty quickly.
Yes, they said, so what we thought we'd like to do is give you you a cameo part. You have a little speaking line or two, and that way, as soon as we've shot the part where you're speaking, you don't have to be there anymore. So they gave me a line. That was the result of half an hour's work with the dialect coach.
Right.
I was having dinner with our younger daughter and her husband. He's a Scot, and they were living in Edinburgh at the time. So this was all happening. And so Jenny said, "Well, say your line for Ian, Mom." So I did. He looked startled, and he said, "That's actually good."
That's great. So you were in town. Your daughter lives here in Portland.
The eldest and
daughter
her
lives here in
husband,
Portland.
yeah.
And you had an event last night. How did that go?
That was great, yeah. No, many thanks to the fan group, the Portland Outlander, they call themselves. They're wonderful. Last June, when Written in My Own Heart's Blood came out, I came here on a book tour, one stop, and they had learned through Twitter and Facebook and things that my elder daughter's church runs a sort of a food pantry for the homeless,
Right.
and they serve meals and give out groceries and all that. Anyway, Laura at that point was doing the PR for this particular thing, and so they, off their own hook, did a little fundraiser and raised $600 for the Clay Street table, it's called.
Oh, that's
which was
great.
fantastic. Yeah, but they loved it, and they said, "Are you going to be in Portland anytime this summer?" And I said, "Well, yeah, my husband and I are going to the Shakespeare Festival with Laura and Ashland and so
Oh,
forth."
that's so fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and they said, "Could you stay over, and we'd like to do a big fundraiser." I said, "Yeah, I could stay over a night." So that's what they did last night, and it was fabulous. Did a wonderful job. They raised over $20,000.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Wow.
the Reverend Paul, who came to say thank you for it, I think he was expecting maybe $1,000.
Yeah.
Like he says, that's a good fundraiser. They handed him the check, and he was just speechless.
Now you have another book coming out, 2 books coming out. Tell me about those.
Yes. Okay. It takes me 2 or 3 years to write a novel, and it's usually 4 years between because of all the PR. As in, you'll notice that I'm not home writing my book right now. Yeah. So it will not be the sequel to Written in My Own Heart's Blood. I'm working on that, but it'll be a while for that one. What's coming out this year is The Outlandish Companion Volume 2, which is a nonfiction companion to the series. It has all the background and trivia and interesting stuff that goes into the books. And this particular one is very interesting. It's got contributions from Terry Dressbach, the costume designer for the show, Bear McCreary, the composer, explaining.
By the oohs and ahs in the audience, you're going to have a lot of buyers on that
I think
one.
they will enjoy this. Yeah, the Gallic consultant who did all of the Gallic tutoring for the show wrote the Gallic glossary and pronunciation guide for this book for me. Yeah, and there's the herbalist who consulted on the show, Dr. Claire Mackay, and also the nice woman who has been doing an Outlander kitchen website for a long time. She has a book coming out called Outlander Kitchen Cookbook. We don't have a pub date for that one as yet, but I asked her also, would she do me a piece on cookery in the 18th century Scotland?
And you also have a coloring book coming out.
Yes, this is the official Outlander coloring book. They're laughing because last night I was describing the hideous attempts at cover art that we've been seeing for that. It finally came out and it looks okay.
And what people probably don't know about it, you used to write for Disney.
I did, yeah. I wrote comic books for Disney in the late 70s.
What was that experience like? I noticed you've got a little Disney pin there. We're looking at Uncle Scrooge here.
No, it's Donald Duck. He's one of my totem animals.
Donald Duck, yeah.
Oh, that's Uncle Scrooge.
Right.
There you go. Yeah, that's one of my stories. Yeah.
Do you go to Comic-Con?
Yeah.
And then
The various Comic Cons.
yes. What is that experience like for you as an author? I mean, it
depends.
It kind of is kind of crazy fans there, aren't there usually?
Total zoo, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when I go to Comic-Con with the show, we have bodyguards. We have Big Ben.
Oh, I bet.
We have Big Al and Big Ben or Big Mike. They have these enormous men that are easily 7'4", both of them, and they go everywhere with you.
That's great.
We don't have any trouble.
We can't tell you how much we appreciate coming to be on the show.
Well,
So
it's my
thank you so
pleasure.
much.
Thank
and
you.
next time you're visiting your daughter, please come see us again.
Thank you very much. Had a
Great.
good time. Thanks.
All right. Diana Gabaldon, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll be right back with more AM Northwest.